Really impressed by what we've been seeing from sophomore quarterback C.J. Bailey this season. He's completing 70% of his passes. We're going to watch some of the clips from the Virginia game, and the decision-making's almost flawless. There's only one throw that I picked out from the whole game where I think was kind of turnover-worthy, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But besides that, man, the anticipation he throws with, even just the accuracy, the consistency. There's a lot of quarterbacks where, they'll be good at reading defenses. They're just not always consistent in their mechanics. So far this season, I haven't really seen any throws where you can say C.J. Bailey read it, he just couldn't make the throw. For the most part, it's been really good. This first throw we're going to take a look at, I really like the anticipation and the processing we see from C.J. Bailey. I don't know if this guy at the top of the screen is being told to run a vert if the guy's in man and then kind of come back if it's in cover 3 or cover 4. I don't know if this is cover 3 or cover 4. The point of the matter is that this corner is kind of passing off on these 10-yard comebacks to kind of get any kind of deep crosser. C.J. Bailey sees that. This dude is not even in his break yet when he decides to throw this. You see C.J. Bailey's loading to just let this one rip, and he lets it rip with great anticipation. Look at the amount of separation that this cornerback has. And C.J. Bailey was staring at him the whole time. So really, really nice throw on that one. Also, we're going to talk about C.J. Bailey being a really good athlete at 6'6", 210. He is going to have to put on another 10 or 15 pounds to really, feel good about him not getting hurt, I guess, because right now he's pretty skinny. He's pretty spread out right now, but this dude is fast in a straight line. This is a safety. When I first watched it, I thought this was a linebacker he got an angle on. You know how many times they run this in practice, these D-backs, this filling this alley here, and the thing is the scout player that they're tackling is not C.J. Bailey. C.J. Bailey's a whole lot faster than him. So we're going to talk about him being a really good athlete. I think this guy's a pocket passer first. He just has that athleticism in his back pocket. This is a nice strike over the middle here. This arrives with some good tempo. We're going to look at some of the high school film and talk about how much better of a passer C.J. Bailey's gotten, or really how much better of a thrower, we'll say. Really like the velocity this one lands with. Hits the dude on the numbers. This next play here. Similar deal. This one's thrown right out the break. Maybe a bit later, but hits this guy right on the money. You guys tell me. I'm like, this is what I'm trying to read. Just how good of an arm does C.J. Bailey has. We know he's a good athlete. We can see how good of a processor he is. What's going to really determine where this guy gets drafted, in 2-3 years, is how good of an arm he has, and I think he's up there. I like it so far. This one's a sack. I actually included this because I kind of like the toughness we see in the pocket. 6'6", 210's tough guy to bring down. This one's incomplete. I really like the toughness, again, that we see from this, because this is a very difficult throw. This arrives with some real velocity here. He sees this is open. He does a good job just kind of fading away from this pressure here. Maybe you'd want him to step up, but I can't really fault. Look at where this ball lands. This is good play by the cornerback, kind of recovering because this was open. But I thought the way that this was thrown, I kind of liked it. Because there's a chance. This is third down. I think this receiver has a chance to catch this. That's all you can do as a quarterback. I thought that was a pretty good throw. I think this is the second rushing touchdown. This dude is fast. He is a good athlete for sure. Now, this is the one negative throw I saw from C.J. Bailey all game, and even this I can't really fault. So this looks like they're in man across the board, except they have a single high safety. I don't know that C.J. Bailey sees a single high safety, because I think if he did, this is one he kind of thinks twice of throwing up. This safety here does a really good job getting across the field and hauling ass, and he's able to make a play on the ball here, because if he's not there, this might be a touchdown. Bailey actually missed his receiver, but the point remains, if this was a good throw, I think the safety has a chance. I don't know. That could have hit the dude in stride. You guys let me know about the decision. It was a good throw for sure. I just don't know if that's one we want to take at this point in the game, where we can't turn the ball over. I think they're up 4 at this point. Anyways, what did I notice C.J. Bailey got a lot better at? If you guys go rewatch the college throws, a lot of the throws are over the top. He's getting a lot of velocity to the ball. At Chaminade, this is a dude that there were certainly eyes on him. He was the 3-star quarterback, sure. He's throwing to Jeremiah Smith. He's throwing to JoJo Trader. Schaumbaug's one of the best, one of the premier prep schools in the country. There's definitely eyes on him. There's definitely SEC programs. There's definitely, top level programs looking at CJ Bailey. Why did they not take him? Why was this guy not a guy that was a priority for some bigger schools than NC State? Bigger football schools, I'll say, than NC State. Look at the way the ball arrives in high school, dude. Now, he's 6'6". He's a really good athlete. There's a lot to like about him as a prospect. But as a passer, as a thrower, just look at how the ball arrives. It just looks soft. And why? Because I think if you take a look at his arm now, just look how it's kind of like a sidearm throw. He doesn't do this anymore. This is a guy that went into the workshop and totally kind of redid his mechanics, because in high school, man, this is a soft ball as this arrives. Now, we're going to talk about the processing. We just talked about that. He does a good job. He decides this ball is going to come out before this receiver's in his break. I can't tell if this is Jeremiah Smith. I think it is. I can't tell if it's number 4. He decides this ball is going to come out before this guy's in his break. He does a good job seeing it's open. We saw in college how fast that ball arrived. It just doesn't arrive with the same amount of velocity, the same amount of oomph as it does in college. We just saw this throw over the top before. These are all throws that aren't touch throws. He's fitting these into windows. Here's another one. Just kind of a sidearm release here. He's losing a lot of velocity on these balls in high school. He did I'm only bringing this up to give him testament. A lot of times we don't talk about these kids able to kind of fix this kind of stuff. This last throw, a little bit more over the top. I actually thought this was a better throw than the first 2 that we saw. Anyways, that was CJ Bailey. You guys let me know what you think. Really excited to watch him. They're going to be on Thursday night against Wake Forest at 7:30 on ESPN this week. Going to be a really good game. Thanks for watching. You guys let me know what you think.